Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever. Whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College, the first choice to make college possible. As education costs rise, Thomas Nelson's affordable tuition, financial aid, and scholarships make college accessible to everyone. More at tncc.edu.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamlee. Soulful music and great food, the recipe for a fabulous holiday weekend celebration. Up next on Another View, WHRV's very own Jae Sinnett, drummer, composer, producer, music educator, and foodie, sharing his latest CD, Altered Egos, and whipping up something special from his Cooking with Jae kitchen, especially for you, our Another View listeners. We'll be easing you into the holiday weekend, so stay with us. We'll be right back after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRV News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Hamlee. Our guest today needs no introduction. He's family, coming to you via his shows, Senate in Session and the R&B Chronicles, his CDs, the latest one is Altered Egos, or via Facebook with his Cooking with Jae show. We love having him as a guest on Another View. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jae Sinnett, how are you, sir?
I'm a legend in my own mind.
You are a legend in your own mind. You know, Jae, you are the first guest that I have sat physically across from in this studio since March of 2020.
That's amazing. I couldn't believe that when you said that to me. Well, hopefully I don't have the cooties,
Okay, so can I tell you?
If I got cooties, I got it through osmosis.
Can I be honest with you? I actually did the hand thing to check to make sure we had 6 feet. Yeah, we are all fully vaccinated. That's the only way we're allowed in the building here. Although this Delta variant, it's
no joke.
It's no joke.
I was just telling you, I have a life of routines. Go home, come to work. You and I have had to come in to work. We've never had a break that we couldn't, because we can't do what we do from home.
Exactly.
And it's not just about me, Barbara, and I'm sure you feel the same way about this, because we have to come around our coworkers. We have to be responsible. Like, I don't want to get it. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get it.
Exactly.
And equally important to me is I don't want to give it to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Unknowingly.
Absolutely.
By irresponsible behavior, going out to a club or being around a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. We have to be responsible for this and think beyond us. Now, that's just my take on it.
Well, that's the thing that I've been talking to people about every week. I know some people who listen to me on a regular basis are probably sick of hearing it, but I really am all about, let's take care of the community. Let's take care of all of us, and if we all do our part, then we can get beyond this thing and move forward. But anyway, we're here to talk about Altered Egos. Yep. How did you come up with that title?
Altered Egos references the two different styles of jazz we're playing on the record. And one of the things I love about my guys, Alan Farnham, pianist Alan Farnham, and bassist Terry Burrell. Mm-hmm. Terry, for example, is equally good on acoustic bass, straight up acoustic bass for swinging straight ahead jazz, as he is electric bass for pocket funk, right? And Alan Farnham, the pianist, keyboardist, Alan can groove or he can swing, right? So I said, let's do both, but let's do it authentically. So, for example, when we played the groove stuff, I use a different drum kit, my what I call my funk kit, right? And so that pocket is thick with Terry's electric bass, right? Then when we switched to jazz, I went to my smaller jazz kit. So the tonal textures are authentic with the music, right? So, and we keep oscillating between the two styles throughout the record. So hence the title, Altered Egos.
So did you write all the music for this?
This was one of the first. This was the first record. I really didn't focus on composing. I wrote 2 songs on the record, but my focus on here was drumming. There are more drum solos on this record than ever. And I just really wanted to showcase both sides of my drumming and both sides of the group. But Alan wrote several tracks on the record because he's a fantastic writer, and I wanted him to contribute more because he writes music that I love to play drums on, right? He wrote Verity, Bright Thoughts. I mean, fantastic tracks. I wrote 2, Reiterate and Mr. Ree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. R-E-E, Mr. Ree. And then the rest I did some arrangements on some standards. The In Crowd.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was going to bring up the In Crowd first.
The In Crowd.
That and Summertime was another standard that you have on there.
Gershwin's Summertime. I did those arrangements. And I made them drum friendly. Like we took the In Crowd, which was an old Billy Page track, but Ramsey Lewis had an instrumental hit out of it, right? And but I put a modern twist on it. We play it instrumentally, but I put a modern twist on it. We changed the time signature and just really did some different things with it.
Well, let's take a listen. Listen to a little bit of the In Crowd. So you get it's a funky beat.
Do you remember the song?
Oh yeah,
Do you
very much
remember
so.
Ramsey's version of that? Ramsey played it in four times. Right.
I was gonna say to you because you don't you with your version you feel it, but you don't. For me, I don't quite know which beat I'm supposed to
right, because we play it in 7. We played dun, 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 7 1 dun, 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 7 1. Right.
Gotcha.
Ramsey played it in 4/4, which is easier to dance to because it's even phrases. But when you play that, hence that's why they call odd time signatures odd. So anything other than 4/4 time, which is most of the music we dance to, is considered odd meter. Right. So and that's kind of a modern interpretation so we took the 60s classic and put some 2021 on it.
Do you worry from a commercial standpoint as you're putting your album out and so forth? When you redo standards, is it a risk? In terms of people go, that's not how I'm used to hearing it.
Yeah,
so therefore I don't.
No, it's a good question. I remember the first time I heard Branford Marsalis and his quartet redo John Coltrane's masterpiece, Love Supreme. I'm like, man, that's a risk to do that one because it's so ingrained in us, but they pulled it off. And or somebody doing the music of Stevie Wonder or whatever, because these songs are so ingrained in us. But I think the key is maintaining the integrity of the melodies, right? We can do what we call reharm or reharmonization, which all songs, harmony supports the melody. So you don't necessarily have to have the same harmonic progressions to support the same melody. So when we say reharmonization, we're using a different harmonic progression underneath the melody. So something's going to sound different, but you still have that melody.
Piece, yeah.
So if you maintain, if you maintain the integrity of the melodies, then I think you're pretty good to go. Like we changed it rhythmically, and we don't have the time to play the whole tracks, but later on there's an intense drum solo on here, and which wasn't on the original track. And I wrote a section that I identify as ostinatos. Ostinatos in musical terms simply means something repeated over and over and over again. Like the band is playing under me a repeated figure while I solo.
Yes, I know, while you solo there.
Over top of them.
Is there any way, Todd, to move it a little bit further in? I know I'm throwing you a curveball. Don't worry about it if you can. I was just trying to see if we could get to Jae's solo a little bit in that piece.
Probably about the 5 minute, 50 second mark, Todd. Yep.
That's
the beginning of the drum solo.
Okay, but that's the repeat, right?
That's the ostinato.
Okay.
And they just, Alan and Terry just repeat that. And then I'll start to gradually open up more on top of that. Five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. Yeah, so that's an ostinato.
Okay.
And I prefer playing my solos over ostinatos because this is just my opinion on this. I think it makes it more musical. It has more of a dramatic effect. And for the listener listening to this, I think it gives them something more to latch on because you're not going to walk away humming my drum solo.
True,
right?
I got you. But you are going to hum that other piece,
yeah,
and
but
you remember
you will feel
the drum
along
solo
with that. It keeps you
yeah.
attached to it, and I just think it makes the bigger picture more musical. Now, I like playing open solos by myself, but this is my preferred way.
So you started, I think, at the beginning of the month, around the 15th or so, when it was first released, the CD. Is that right?
The national release was the 1st of August. Yeah.
Okay.
First week in August.
So
and I got some good news from.
Okay, so you went from number 29 on the top 50 chart on August 26th. Your album of the week on WDNA in Miami, and your CD was climbed. There was another one that we had. But anyway, where are you today? Is my point.
The objective. The chart comes out every Thursday. By the way, my objective, as far as she's talking about the Jazz Week national radio chart. My objective was to get the record in the top 25 in the country. That's my ultimate objective. It debuted in the top 50 at 44 week before last. It jumped to 29. And this morning, I'm proud to say we reached our objective. It's now number 24. So
congratulations.
We got the top 25, yeah. So where it sits right now, I guess we might end up probably 17, 18 in the country.
That's fantastic.
And
that means, just so that people understand what that means that people are playing this album all over the country.
You get where you place on the chart depends on how many ads, like in other words, how many stations add your record. Then we have something called spins. How many spins each station is giving your record. So your chart, you move up or down, but you get on a chart first and foremost by the number of ads. Okay. Then where you move up or down on the chart depends on the number of spins that each station is giving you. Like Miami, since they have us this week as record of the week, we're probably getting 15 to 18 to 19 spins a day on the
and
record.
it's not, is it the same song on the record, or are they playing different pieces?
No, they'll play different tracks on the record. And in this case, particularly, hence the title, Altered Egos, because the tracks are so different from each other. One is a straight up swinging traditional straight ahead jazz trio, and the other is like what you just heard there, more funky, more grooving.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Have you had a chance to hear Altered Egos?
You give that number out fast. How do they remember that number?
They do, because they're used to me. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call. Talk to Jay.
440-2665?
2665.
Okay, I'll see what I remembered it.
So another classic you did is In Crowd.
No, that was the first
I'm sorry,
one.
we just did that. Then we did Summertime. That was the other one.
Yeah, that's Gershwin's Summertime, which is a song everybody knows.
Yeah, and I want to play a little bit of that, though.
Now,
I think
this is
like
the perfect example. This is the perfect
example.
example of talking about reharmonization.
Okay.
We kept the melody intact, but you hear an entirely different set of chord progressions underneath the melody.
Okay, let's take a listen. Yeah, that's got the. It's beautiful. I mean,
thank
first
you,
of all,
thank
the music is gorgeous, but it's in a different key than you're used to hearing.
It's not a different
Is
key
it?
so much. It's pretty much A minor. It stays.
Okay.
But again, it's the way the chord progressions move. That's hence the
Okay.
reharm. That's what we call reharmonization.
Gotcha.
So I'm putting in chords that weren't in the original. Okay, I'm using a completely different set of chord progressions than what Gershwin wrote the song with, right? But we're keeping the melody the same.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it is.
So, how has COVID affected you in terms of performing? And
3 gigs in a year and a half.
wow,
Yeah. So when this stuff first broke, it was, I mean, we lost everything. It just shut down the industry. Alan, my pianist, his main job is first chair pianist with Lion King on Broadway.
oh wow,
So and
that
and,
got
you know,
shut down
they,
too?
they got shut down. So musicians that one of the things I teach when I'm teaching my students, my drum students, have a plan B. Always have a plan B. And then this is the perfect reason why you have a plan B. And because I know so many musicians that were just playing music just as a living.
Because that was their
main,
passion and their love, and that's what they wanted to do.
Alan, fortunately, is
Yeah.
also a great educator, jazz educator, and he had many piano students. So he was just teaching like I was. I was teaching through Zoom or some other virtual outlet, Skype or something like that, right? And Alan was teaching that way. So we were still able to teach and everything, but I have a job, thankfully. Thank God I have a job. But a lot of musicians don't. And it shut down the industry. It hit a lot of industries really hard, but that entertainment industry, man, we really got hit hard.
So this year, I noticed that you had put out on Facebook, there's a whole lineup of a lot of great jazz artists that are supposed to be coming to the area.
Yeah.
I mean, is there still hesitancy in terms of venues at this point?
There is, because we don't know what this variant's going to do. I mean, we don't know what these numbers are going to do. Right now, I have Tierney Sutton scheduled to come in November, great singer, November 5th and 6th in Newport News. The venue is not open yet officially, but it will be open here middle of September. My trio is playing there the middle of October, on October 15th, and then we're going to be supposed to be playing the Williamsburg Library Theater, one of our favorite venues, October 16th. Then I'm bringing Cyrus Chestnut back in December 11th weekend, and I'm going to book some more things, but people are slow in signing contracts, and you have to put, amendments in these contracts, because if you get something signed and confirmed, you don't want to have people locked into something. And then you sign it, and then all of a sudden, a month down the road, these numbers are going through the roof, so we have to shut it down.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky business right now. I mean, it really is.
So what was your muse for Altered Egos? I mean, each time you decide to do a CD, is there something that triggers or are you just constantly writing and you just go, well, I got a whole bunch of stuff, so it's time to put together an album?
Well, no, that's a great question, Barbara, because since we weren't really playing live, what we were doing, Alan and Terry and myself, we were recording virtually. We were putting together these virtual performances, these virtual videos, and putting them up on our social platforms. And there's a weird thing with the latency in terms of if you're trying to record in time with other musicians online. You have
because there's a delay there.
A delay. So what we did, each of us will record our parts by ourselves, right?
Okay.
And then through the magic of editing, we would all play to a click track. So we would all be in the same time, right? And then we would put the 3 parts together. And then when you would see us, you would see 3 separate frames, but it looks like we're actually all really playing together and sounds like we're playing together. So throughout the course, we've been doing this for a year and a half. And I was listening to Alan play, and his playing was just explosive. I mean, it was just incredible piano playing. I had never heard the guy play like that, and I've been playing with him over 30 years.
Wow.
Same with Terry. It just felt so good playing with these guys like that. And I said, you know what? We had a conversation. I had a conversation with him. I said, you know what, guys? I want to go back to roots playing. I want to go back to when we were learning how to play this music, when we were learning how to swing, when we were learning how to play funky, when we were learning how to groove. That kind of passion and that attachment to those sensations, emotional sensations, right? oftentimes we can get a little bit too heady, a little bit too intellectual, and that's where things went. But I said, let's go full circle and go back to roots, but with a modification and a refinement. So basically, we went back to swinging, hardcore swinging. We went back to hardcore grooving. It's about making things feel good. And that's one more thing about this. Being a radio broadcaster, I hear tons of music, right? Mm-hmm. And if I have to listen, 1 out of 10 CDs that I get, and we get about 30 to 40 to 50 CDs a week, there's a lot of music coming in. And there's no way we can play everything. But I listen to everything. And I will tell you, the one area that is lacking in so much of this music today is how the music feels.
How it makes you feel?
Just how it feels. If it feels good when it's played, it's going to make you feel good. And we were losing that. The music is losing this element. That's why so many of us boomers, we keep going back to old school because of how it made us feel.
That's true.
And that's what I wanted to go back to on this record. Let's just go back to fundamentals. Let's go back to root. Let's go back to blues and swing and just make some stuff feel good.
Just make it feel good. You talked about, I was reading, because I love reading your posts because you kind of get into the reasoning behind music and so forth. But one of the things that you said was that a lot of programmers today will take an album or a CD and play the first cut. And if they don't like the first cut, you rarely get to the rest of it. And so it may or may not hit those charts and so forth. Is that and kind of a lost art within the industry? Are people just being lazy? I mean, how is that changing? And does that change the way that you decide which song is going to be first, second, third, etc.?
Another great question. You know what? You and I are from the generation where we bought the 45s.
Yes.
And we couldn't wait to hear the rest of the album. What destroyed that listening concept? Two things: MTV and iTunes. Up to MTV, music was a listening art. MTV came along, then music became a visual art. And
True,
so
because everybody was all about what they were doing and how it looked.
Things look, And then iTunes, they created the 30-second soundbite. So people would listen to iTunes 30 seconds and then come to some sort of conclusion about what they were hearing, right? How are you going to come to a conclusion in 30 seconds? But that's what happened. So the art of listening changed. How people put it. It's like I was and there's another element to this: names. People are reacting to names. And I'll share this very quick story. I was in a record store. I won't say which one. Jeffrey Keyser, pianist, phenomenal piano player, was playing over the loudspeaker in the store, right? And some guy was in there. He's like, "Man, who was this playing this piano? This must be Herbie Hancock." And I knew who it was. I knew it was Jeffrey Keyser, right? And he kept listening. He said, "Man, I got to get me some new Herbie, man. Yeah, this is killing." So he goes up and asks the guy at the counter, "Hey, man, this new Herbie you got playing, I want to get this." And the guy said, "Well, no, it's not Herbie Hancock, man. It's a pianist named Jeffrey Keyser." And the guy goes, "Who?" He said, "Jeffrey Keyser." He goes, "Oh, man, I thought I was going to get me some Herbie Hancock." And then turned around and walked out of the store.
But he liked the music.
But once he didn't recognize the name.
Wow.
And that's where we are today, Barbara. That's where we are. People are reacting to names, even if they like the music. If they don't recognize the name, not much I can do with this. It's the strangest thing. I don't even know how to respond to it.
I was going to say, because the name doesn't matter if you like the music.
But
Isn't that the point?
That's where we are.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call. Are you curious about why Jay cooks in addition to doing music? And we're getting ready to talk about his cooking in just a moment. As a matter of fact, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the art of jazz, and we will segue into the art of cooking with drummer, composer, music educator, and foodie Jae Sinnett. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. All right, so I got to read this because I wrote it in a special way. Now, you talked about on Facebook your grandmother, Iola Bokum.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that she's the reason that you like to cook. And you talked about her chicken and dumplings, fried chicken, collards, smothered whatever.
Go easy on me.
Meatloaf, brown gravy, green beans, blackberry cobbler. I'm sitting there just salivating, right? And then when I catch up with you on Cooking with Jay, I hear fig blueberry chutney, classic shrimp scampi, harissa chicken with green, brown, and black lentils. So my question to you is Miss Iola rolling over in her grave, or is she praising you for your evolution? I don't hear any soul food dishes in there, Jay.
Well,
in the traditional sense.
That doesn't mean I can't make them, but that's an interesting, question again, Barbara. My grandmother, watching my grandmother was born in Florence, South Carolina, okay? And she had those traditional hardcore Southern values in the way she cooked. That was just in her, the fat back, the lard. Oh, I'm getting chills even saying it. But I would.
Yeah, but those biscuits melted in your mouth, didn't they?
I know. She made this stuff and lived to be 91, I think. Yeah, but it's she. When I would watch her cook as a little boy, and then eat that food, I didn't really know much about restaurants back then. We didn't have any money. We couldn't afford to go out and eat any place. But what I got from that was like, you can have this kind of enjoyment. You can satisfy your taste buds like this right in the comfort of your home. You just have to know how to do it. So in that regard, the seeds for my cooking appreciation were planted, right? But when I first really started cooking, it was as I was a broke college student, right? I didn't have any money and couldn't afford to eat, so I bought canned this, canned that,
and doctored it up, as we say.
Right. and would usually salt and pepper. And then it became an art. Cooking became, I recognized cooking as an art because I started paralleling the art of cooking with the art of music composition. Like the salmon, for example, was the theme or the melody.
Okay.
How I would season the salmon would become the seasonings or the harmony. How I would cook the salmon would be the rhythm, right?
Ah.
So I always made these parallels. And one thing, I don't know anyone that doesn't like to eat, but I know people who don't like jazz. So a big part of the reason I got into cooking was to bring people into jazz. And I used to give out recipes on my Sunday show. When I would open my Sunday Senate in Session show, I always gave out a recipe. And I would get 30, 40, 50 calls or emails a week about those recipes, but nobody was emailing me about the jazz. But out of that, though, several people would say, Jay, I wait for your recipe, and then I found myself listening to the jazz. So it was working.
So it was drawing them in.
And then a friend of mine said, why are you giving away all your recipes? And I thought about that too. And I'm like, you're kind of right there, right? Because if I write a book one day, there's nothing new to put in here. And so my grandmother planted the seeds, and the third element of my cooking concept was healthy lifestyle. That's really the reason why I get away from my grandmother's cooking.
But you can fry chicken.
I can fry some chicken.
But
I cannot make her chicken and dumplings to save my life.
Isn't that funny? There's always a dish that your mother or your grandmother made that you try. Mine was the sweet potatoes that my mother used to make. I would watch, I would focus.
Yep.
And I just couldn't get that
I watched my grandmother make those chicken and dumplings. I know 500 times. I watched her make that dough for the crust for the blackberry cobbler. I don't know what she would do, and she was sneaky too. She'd be putting everything together in the pot for the dumplings, and she'd go, "Baby, hand me grandma's shoes over there," and I turn around and look, and she add something in the pot, and I would turn around like, "What did you just do?" "I ain't done nothing, baby. What are you talking about?"
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Danny joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Danny. You're on the air.
Hey, so I had a question for Jay.
Sure.
He was talking about the 30-second sound bites that Apple has, and I'm just curious what his view is on the way music is discovered nowadays, because things like Apple or Spotify, you rank based on popularity of songs. And so it's really hard to discover. You're basically fed, what's popular, right? So I'm just kind of curious about his view on that.
Well, as an artist, Matter of fact, I pulled one or two of my records off of Spotify simply because they don't really pay us. For me to make $100 on Spotify, $100 on Spotify, one of my songs has to be played about 20,000 times.
Wow.
Think about that for a moment. But at the same time, you look at the Spotify's profit margins, which are insane. So people can create these playlists and they can listen to our songs as much as they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
As often as they want. And we literally, the artists, I'm talking about the artists, get paid pennies. So in one way, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Spotify or Pandora, both of which are playing my music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful that they selected my music to play. They don't play everything they get, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I want to be paid for, them playing my music. They're getting paid. Their profit margins are in the billions. So it's like they're making money off us. It's just a dilemma, man. But they're working on that. I mean, they're trying to come up with legislation that can force these companies to pay the artists more money, particularly when they look at their profit margin versus profit margin. So it's good and bad.
Danny, were you also asking though, how does someone who may not be a Jae Sinnett get their music, get these platforms to actually play their music? Is that what you were asking too?
Well, not exactly. I'm specifically talking about the discoverability. Like, you guys were saying, listening to records on 45s, you'd listen to the whole record.
Right.
Well, now if I go to Spotify and I pull up Jay, what I'm going to get is a list of his most popular songs first. And, I think users today kind of miss out on that discoverability.
Well, that's the downside about selective programming. In some ways they can't. Well, no, I guess they could. They play everything. Somebody is sitting there just randomly selecting songs. They listen to something. We're basically hearing what that particular individual likes, what that individual wants to play. So I might listen to something and I might make a recommendation, or I would make a recommendation if I could, but we can't. Somebody there has to pick out what's being played. So the artist has no control over that. Right. So whatever Danny you're listening to, that's out of my control. That's somebody selecting that. Whatever songs you hear, we have no control over that. And you're right. There's a ton of great performances missed out because of this, what I call selective programming. I think that's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah. And even when they program TV shows, radio shows, all of it, there is that subjectivity. They're based on the person that's doing it. But you try to be as broad. I know in your jazz shows, when I listen there, I'm going to hear a variety.
And I play things I don't necessarily like.
Right.
That's important. See, people think, well, he only plays stuff he likes. That's not true. I play a lot of things because
so I'm curious about that. If you don't like a song, well, I know what you mean, but in terms of it wouldn't be your favorite. All right. But what is it that you look for that, or what are you thinking about in terms of your audience that you would say, it's not my cup of tea, but I think the audience would appreciate it. Is there anything?
Yeah. How I program, I first and foremost make a musical decision because I'm able to do that.
Okay.
You would be amazed how many non-musicians are music hosts, right?
Yes.
They couldn't tell you a triad if it bit them on their boom boom, right? But I make a musical decision first. Are they playing in tune? How's the time and feel of the song? How's the improvisation? Is the great writing? How's the audio quality? All these things go into, that's the first thing. And then I listen to it and I see, how it makes me feel. Like people would be surprised to hear me say, I'm not a huge fan of Dave Brubeck and how he played piano. Joe Morello, the drummer with the Brubeck Quartet, didn't particularly like the way Dave Brubeck played piano, but I have the utmost respect for this man because of what he accomplished, what he did. And I knew Mr. Brubeck, I had him on my show a couple of times. We played with him, I have the utmost respect. He was such a great human being. But I don't have to like everything he played. But I know people love to hear the Dave Brubeck Quartet or Mr. Brubeck play. So I look at it that way.
So that's what takes you there. 440-2665, 1-800-940-2240. David joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, David. You're on the air.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Jay, I had a question because I don't know jazz much, but as I've listened to it over the years, and if you played with accomplished artists, is there a rehearsal and is there a length of time on the songs? And I think jazz, when it goes on, much lengthier than other genres that I've heard. Is it just somebody decides when to stop it? You know what I mean? And go on to the next one, or just like.
That's a good question,
what that
David.
reminds me of, David? There was a situation with Miles Davis and John Coltrane, right? Coltrane was playing this. They were doing this show, I think, in Stockholm somewhere, and Train's solo just was going on and on and on forever. And after the set on break, and back in the dressing room, Train said, "Miles, I'm so sorry, man. I just, play my solo so long, I can't figure out how to end my solo." And Miles, with his raspy voice, said, "Just take the horn out your mouth." Right? So we improvise. Jazz players improvise. After we play the melody, we improvise. And there's an art to improvisation. Charlie Parker, for example, the great bebop saxophonist, was a master of the short solo. See, back then, they couldn't record these songs. Most of these songs were 2 minutes to 3 minutes long, right? Gotcha. So you didn't have that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute recording capability. And so you had to make your so-called statement.
You had to make it happen.
within 60, 40, 50, 60 seconds. So I tell people, musicians, study Charlie Parker, man, because outside of what he actually played, he was a master of solo construction. So, David, what you're talking about are these endless solos that just go on and on. You're right. Do we rehearse that? No. We rehearse basically the song form, make sure all the harmony is correct. We know the melody, we know the meter, we know the tempo. Those are the things we rehearse. The improvisation mostly comes out during the live event. And great, smart soloists know when and how, when to end their solo, how to play the solo, and to smartly, wrap it up musically.
Wrap it up. And I would imagine, especially when it's a live performance, your solo on Tuesday performance may be a little different than it is on Wednesdays.
Well, that's
you know what I mean, in terms of the feel of the audience, how you're feeling in that particular moment. I mean, there are probably a lot of factors that would go into that.
That's an interesting point about the artist and the relationship with the audience, because there have been many times, most artists will go out on the stage with a set list, right? We have a set list, and I pass out the set list to all the members so they know what we're getting ready to play. So many times, once we get out there, once we start playing, it's a feel thing, and I've made changes, and I'll you might see us talking off mic on the stage. I'm probably telling them, okay, let's shift this, let's play this instead. And there is this interesting connection between the artist and the audience.
Okay, calls are coming in. Michael joins us from Portsmouth. Hi, Michael. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Barbara?
Good.
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. So, my name is Michael Jamel. I'm actually a former intern. Now I'm a saxophonist.
Oh, okay,
so
Michael. Yes. What's your question?
I don't know if you remember me.
Yes, I do. I do remember you.
My question is for Jay. When you were talking about how you guys are recording, recording it separately and putting it together
virtually.
Virtually, exactly. I want to know, how do you think that digital landscape changed? How you guys felt as far as recording it.
You know what? Michael, right? Yeah, Michael.
Yes, sir.
One thing I would always say, if someone can figure out this latency issue, they're going to be a very wealthy individual, particularly in this era of COVID. We just managed to find a way to do it and make it work because we're really good, first of all, at playing with click tracks. Not every musician can play comfortably with click tracks. But if somebody can figure out this...
Can you explain what a click track is?
A metronome. It's like a metronome.
Okay,
so,
got you.
We set it at, like, say, 120 BPMs or beats per minute, right? So the bass player plays at 120. He knows to set his... Terry knows to set his metronome at 120. Alan knows to set his at 120. I set mine at 120. So we're all in the same time.
Everybody's doing the same time.
Even though we're not playing together.
Got you.
But when we put them all together, then we align everything and everybody's part. Then we're in perfect time with each other. But for us to all record in real time, it's the latency thing is going to make that very difficult to do. So if somebody can figure this out, they're going to be a very, very wealthy. And I know some people are getting close to it.
Let me ask you this, though. Also, does the fact that you and Terry and Alan have played together for so long help in terms of making that work also?
Absolutely. We know each other like the back of our hands. We can anticipate. What longevity will bring is anticipation.
Okay, let's take one more call, and then we got to get to our recipe for the folks. We can't forget that. Barrett joins us from the Eastern Shore. Hi, Barrett. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I want to just share a quick experience. And longtime listener to all of WHRO's station, classical, basically longtime contributor, and y'all have, including you, Barbara,
Appreciate it.
significantly added to my life. So here I was, I guess maybe 18, 20 years. I think we all get to a point where we want to change in our life, and I made a critical musical change in my listening, even though classical music was something that I'd already embraced for a few years. But I remember the first few times hearing Jay on the radio and listening to his contemporary. And again, I'm kind of addicted to public radio. And Jay, you gave me some understanding, to have patience, to learn, to feel it, to not shut it off. And Jay, you helped expose me to a wide range of jazz. And I just want to share one other experience, and that is 9/11. Jay, I used to always catch you on Sunday. My work doesn't quite allow it anymore. And yeah, that is when you gave out those wonderful recipes. But 9/11 came, and I remember, it was you were just getting ready to come on your session, and I went outside, and it was sunny, and there was this god awful sadness, and I sat down on the deck on the step, and I thought, what's he first going to come out with? And your choice was just spot on for the moment. So just want to thank you for your excellence in programming, your ability to explain things for people like myself who don't understand all the facets and can easily kind of want to come to a quick decision. So thank you to all of y'all there. And Jay, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Barrett, for the call. Barrett. We appreciate that.
Your words are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Wow. Your music makes a difference. And you never know.
Music is huge in our lives.
Yeah.
More important than we probably realize. Mm-hmm. Music can transport us to fun, memorable places. It can make us sad. It can make us laugh. It can make us move. There's so many emotional.
For him to remember that particular day. Well, 9/11 affected all of us in many different ways, and we're getting ready to come up on, I can't believe, the 20th anniversary. Mm-hmm. But for him to say, the music you chose, set the tone to help me get through this. It's like how I feel when I do speeches and somebody will come up to me and say, you talked to my class, 10 years ago and you said X. I don't remember it, necessarily. But the fact that people were affected by it, makes what we do a lot richer. Don't you
we're
think?
Aware, we're public servants and we have a voice, right? So there are just some things that, I don't know if I'm the lucky person or the unlucky person. I just happen to be the one on air when both Iraq wars started.
Wow.
Some terrible things happened when I was on air, and I realize these things are happening. So it's like, what do I play? I can't, you have to really think about this. So I just let my emotional self take over in the sense that I try to feel what everybody else is feeling.
Yeah.
And so then in those moments, I try to program from that perspective. Sometimes you miss, right?
Yeah.
But more often than not, I think we get it.
Because if you keep it real, people know that and they can
keep
feel
it
that.
real.
All right. We have a recipe for our Another View listeners. And it's Jazzy J's fig and blueberry chutney. Now, I want you to explain it to people.
I explain it.
We got 8 minutes before, because we got another song we need to get to also. Right. So let's do this.
Barbara asked, she wanted me to explain, not explain, to bring in a recipe for the holidays. Like, we have Labor Day coming up. A lot of you are going to still be grilling out. And I thought, what would be something interesting? Like, I love making chutneys. I've always made like my mango chutney or pineapple chutney. No, all fruit. I'm addicted to fruit, so I love fruit. Anything fruit works with me. And so I would just think about peach chutney. I would think about variations on chutney. And I came up with this idea, and I don't know how, with combining figs and blueberries, right? And I love both by themselves. I can eat cups of figs and blueberries alone, right?
Okay.
So I thought I would merge these ideas, and it came out just magnificent. Now, several people have asked me, Lisa, your producer, asked me, how do you use it? Well, one way is how you would use cranberry sauce. You can use it the same way you would use cranberry sauce, but I think this is
just
even
eat it.
more, or just eat it, more expansive. I thought of an idea, like if you put a pork loin on the grill, right? When you take it off, when it's done, and you slice the pieces, the pork loin, then put some of this fig blueberry chutney over these pieces. Out of this world.
Sounds
out
delicious.
Of this world. It works with meats, certain meats, turkey, pork, chicken. You eat it, the Barbara said, standalone. You can even eat it with vegetables. It's a sweet and sour kind of combination thing. And I even put a little heat in, a little bit of red pepper flakes.
I was going to ask you about just a little bit of heat to it.
But it's easy to
Sounds
adjust.
good.
You can make it sweeter to your taste or more sour to your taste. And the recipe is where?
It is going to be on our website, anotherviewradio.org. And Lisa will be putting it up as soon as we sign off at 1:00. But you can find Jazzy J's fig and blueberry chutney at anotherviewradio.org.
And it also freezes well, Barbara. So
great.
One of the things I have some freezing, frozen right now, but I'm gonna break out during the holidays. Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will be breaking out some of my fig blueberry chutney.
That sounds
it's delicious,
so
really
good.
is.
All right, I want to talk about one other song, and that is actually happens to be my favorite of all that I listen to. And that is "Remember Me." And here's the reason why.
Remember.
Right. Here's the reason why it's my favorite, because you let Terry do a solo.
Well, that's not the only song that has a solo.
I know, but that one, of the ones that you sent us, that one, I was like, okay, we giving the drummer a lot. We giving the piano player a lot.
The drummer's a leader.
I understand that, but poor little Terry is out there just keeping the beat, and he comes forward in this. So let's take a little bit of listen to "Remember." Go, Terry. Just a little bit of a teaser. We're going to play some more of that as we close out today. But we got a message on Facebook from Bob Pappas. He says he wanted to let you know that there is a zero latency audio app for recording and practicing called SoundJack that is free to the public and getting amazing reviews. And you might want to check it out. And thanks for the great show.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
There you go.
Definitely check it out. I know there are people working on that. I know there are things out there.
Yeah, definitely. So what's new? What's coming up in the horizon? I know you're trying to get this one out, but what are you working on next?
There's some things I can't talk about that has to do with my music, actually, and working towards trying to have my music more available for trailers, commercials, even movies, that sort of thing. So I'm teamed up with some folks, and we're working on that. That's one thing that I can't really get too much into at the moment. Then there's another thing I can't get too much into about some representation in Europe, some interest in me, some signing me and acting as a Europe and Asian representation.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, but
you get ready to go worldwide.
That was supposed to happen this year, but then COVID shut all that down. So we're looking at 2022.
And this is 30 plus years now for your show, Sinnett in Session.
32 years.
32 years.
Yeah. And I can't believe that either. 32 years. I'm just grateful that I still have an audience. The show still has an audience, and people still listen, and people still contribute and support the shows. I know you feel the same way. We do this, and people come through for us and support because we're non-commercial. So we need that support, and we're greatly appreciative of that support.
Very much so. As a matter of fact, we have a drive coming up in a couple of weeks.
Our fall drive.
Yes, our fall drive. So don't forget us, both of us.
And Barbara, I want to say too that if anybody has any other questions for me, they can email me directly.
Okay.
To Jae.Sinnett, Jae.Sinnett, Jae.Sinnett@WHRV.org. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Okay, one last question. We got a minute and a half left. Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
I do. And it's interesting because I had this idea to do a cooking show paralleling the dish I'm making with the food. We know wine and food pairings,
right?
But I want to talk about, in this particular episode,
food and jazz
and music pairings.
Music, I love it.
Because what the food I listen to while I'm cooking is very different than the food I'm listening to while I'm eating.
Okay, next show. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Jae Sinnett. And that does it for this edition of Another View. We've had a great time.
Yep.
So why not share the experience with family and friends? You can find today's podcast or any of our Another View programs at anotherviewradio.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. We're on Facebook, so like us. And I'm on Twitter at Barbara Ham Lee. Next week on Another View, commentary from the Another View Roundtable. Now, it's the holiday weekend, but the Delta variant of this COVID virus has not taken a break. Whether you are vaccinated or not, please wear your mask when you're out in public and stay socially distant.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have not gotten around to getting your shot, this weekend is the perfect time to protect yourself and those around you. Get your shot.
Not just
Please.
About you. Yeah,
absolutely. It's not just about you. And you know what, Todd? I want you to bring in some more of Remember. While we play that, we're going to play that going out. But our theme music is an original composition made especially for Another View by Jae Sinnett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer. And Jonah Grankowitz answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a safe and joyful holiday weekend. And we'll get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View. Take a listen, everybody, and enjoy. Have a great weekend.
Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College. Whether you want to start your bachelor's degree or advance your career through a short-term program, the first choice is Thomas Nelson Community College. More at tncc.edu/firstchoice.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.